I'm going to tell you something that is going to sting. I have killed bees. Not intentionally, but I did. As did millions of well-meaning people around the world. Now, we did everything we could to save the bees. We filled our rooftops with beehives. We planted gardens. We bought local honey. We shared infographics about colony collapse disorder. And the number of beehives in the United States reached an all-time high. So, mission accomplished, right? Wrong. We caused an ecological disaster, and we lit the fuse on a $577 billion ecological time bomb. So let me tell you why our efforts to save the bees nearly destroyed them. Now, what nobody told you about bees is that there's really no bees. There are 20,000 species of bees. 20,000. And that's only 10% of pollinators around the world. Now, honeybees, that's one species. This European honeybee that's very well managed. Imagine if I went into the audience right now and I said, hey, front row, let's give you all the resources. Let's give you all the food. The rest of you, deal with it. That's what we did with bees. We gave them all of our resources to honeybees. We gave them all the rooftops. We did everything we could. And yet we didn't connect it to data, to measurements, to technology to fully understand the systems that we were changing. And here we are. Now, honeybees have outcompeted other pollinators for resources, who have now less food to eat. They've even spread disease. Now, I got into bees because I wanted to understand how great societies evolved. I wanted to know how we humans could be our best selves. And the anthropologist and geographer Jared Diamond wrote that great societies, human societies, evolved in no small part thanks to their connection to working animals. And to my horror, in his follow-up book, Collapse, Mr. Diamond wrote that societies that exploit biodiversity fall. And that's exactly what we did with the Save the Bees movement. That applies to nations. That applies to corporations, and certainly to each of us. We took to the streets. We took collective action at its finest, everything that we could do, and yet we didn't connect it to data and technology to understand what we were doing. Now, I love the acronym for LAB as Learn, Adapt, and Be Better. Be with 2 E's, of course. And so where we are now is for a reboot. The Save the Bees movement is canceled. We're replacing it. We're advancing it with what I call the biodiversity blueprint. Here's the thesis. We need measurable, data and tech-driven biodiversity action at scale, not just for the environment, but for your bottom line if you are a business, and for your community health and wellness as an individual person in all of your communities. This matters deeply. And here's what that looks like. Adding AI acoustic sensors and adding environmental DNA to get some forensic data about all of the species that we just don't see or even hear or understand that they're there. And what we do here is we take baseline measures and then we set goals for what data we want to see, how much we want to improve biodiversity by, and then we measure along the way, and we test those, and we look at the impact of our actions. This technology is everywhere, right here in your pocket as an individual. We've already learned today about apps like iNaturalist or Merlin is one of my favorites. This listens to birds, and this understands what is there on your walks as a community member. And now the technology exists for companies and governments and buildings to add sensors to their properties and to continuously record data in a way that connects different sites, let's say for a developer's portfolio at a company, like data centers perhaps, where we can start to gather the data at scale. And each building in your neighborhood and community becomes a node on a blockchain for nature, where we're monitoring at scale what's happening, and we're including AI tools for continuous assessment as we understand the impacts of our actions. Now, I'll share some actual data. Here's what the forensics show us. When we look at the honey eDNA, the environmental DNA, as a way to understand the pollinator system, we see on the right-hand side that bees in healthy areas are feeding on native plants. Native plant abundance is the factor that's most closely associated with improved bee health. And in areas on the left that have below average bee health, we see those areas have less native plant biodiversity. And last year, in the United States alone, we lost 2 out of every 3 beehives. 3 years ago, we passed the tipping point where we lost more beehives than survived. So if every 2 out of 3 beehives in America are dying, what does this say about the system that we're changing? Oh, we put beehives on the roof and now we're good. No, we need to take measurements. We need to look at other species and do better, and this is one way that we can. We know that from the data driving ROI, return on investment for companies, that there are tremendous benefits for biodiversity here. We understand that we have 45% of an increase in creativity, 15 fewer sick days of employees, over 30% of an increase in productivity of workers that look at nature from their offices. Sometimes we call this biophilia, biophilic design. When we're looking at property values, we understand that there's an increase in property values with biodiversity, with rooftops that extend the lifespan of a roof by 2 to 3 times. We understand that LEED certification and other ones add value to the buildings. They make these as desirable properties that can help the business case for real estate and developers and individual homeowners and renters. Who doesn't want to be able to grow carrots on the rooftop for your family? We can do this, and it helps business. We need to connect this case between nature and the economy. We even know that rooftop solar panels are more efficient on green rooftops because of their cooling effect. We understand that there are incentives from the government here pouring billions of dollars into biodiversity initiatives because it makes economic sense. We also know that by adding trees to green rooftops and other biodiverse areas, that the surrounding community's value also increases, connecting the economy with, of course, their health. I want to share with you just a few examples here. Fenway Farms, here in Fenway Park. This was Linda Henry's dream, one of the owners here, transforming an empty rooftop to a food-producing space that produces healthy food for the community. It also has sponsorships as a financial model, and part of that food goes into the boxes. So there's many ways that this works, and this idea is ready to scale globally. It's been around for 10 years now. We also see from the data center industry, a group out of Ireland called DCs for Bees, that's doing amazing work by giving out orchard trees to their community. So extending the sustainability from one property out to community health, adding value to the entire industry. And in areas like London, this Miyawaki Sugi forest lowers the temperature of downtown area, and it also increases biodiversity, flipping a city from destroying nature to one of abundance. And I'll share these data freely for folks. It's a way to know what to plant here. It's a wonderful way to understand how you can take action. And you can leave your house any day and take a walk, and now adding technology to enhance your experience. You can go further as a business, as a homeowner, reduce your lighting at night, or add a green rooftop, change your lawn to a meadow, or enjoy the no-mow May, and set those goals prospectively. Understand what the data look like now and how much you want to change it. And I'll share with you one last bit here. We're doing this not just for the bees, but we are going to make sure that we're taking them with us. Thank you.